Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Ram Varan Yadav, President of the Republic of Nepal. The conference is a genuine effort and initiation to bring together international, regional, and national experts and policymakers to discuss and ensure that the mountainous regions and people benefit from global agreements for environmental and sustainable development.
Right Honorable President of Nepal, Dr. Ram Varan Yadav. We are proud of being in the mountains. We might be landlocked and might have difficult terrain, but I consider that we are very rich in natural resources, diversity in flora and fauna, and culture and traditions. But we lack technologies, knowledge and skilled human resources and finance to utilize them to have improved the living conditions of our poor and disadvantaged people.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we please have a big round of applause as the conference inauguration ceremony is being taken place. In Nepal, it is an auspicious plant that grows into a big tree up to 2,000 meters high, and it is an evergreen plant.
It is only through a vertical integration of policy and action that countries will be able to move toward higher resilience.
We got pieces of rocks collected from the top of the Everest. APA decided to walk the 1,700 kilometers Great Himalaya Trail, promoting sustainable tourism as a solution to climate change.
It's my honor and privilege to request Right Honorable Dr. Ram Varan Yadav, President of the Republic of Nepal, to please deliver a speech as the chief guest of this inaugural session.
Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. We all know that mountains all over the world are facing disproportionate impact of climate change, combined with the forces of globalization, continuing environmental degradation, and also socio-economic development. Climate change is making life, the mountains, in developing countries more difficult. We in Nepal are already experiencing what experts say are the impact of the changing climate. The government of Nepal has begun efforts towards mitigating and adaptation to the impacts with support of different development partners. I hope your deliberations will contribute towards developing long-term adaptation program for maintaining vital mountain ecosystem, goods and service for humanity. Let us make the most of the time we have and come up with a sustainable mountain development agenda and work together to convince the world about its importance to humanity.
Right Honorable President of Nepal, Dr. Ram Varan Yadav. It is indeed an honor for me today to be able to express a deep sense of gratitude to the chief guest of this inaugural session, Right Honorable President of Nepal, Dr. Ram Varan Yadav, and also deliver my heartfelt thanks to all other distinguished guests, invitees and the participants of this International Conference of Mountain Countries on Climate Change, who has been championing the cause of battling climate change in and around the high mountains with messages and actions. We thank the team, which is now nearing the completion of its mission of trekking 1,700 kilometers of the mountain trails, and wish them best wishes. I now would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the heads and the members of the delegations to this conference, especially our foreign guests representing their respective countries and organizations, for coming all the way from faraway destinations and showing solidarity to mountain initiative that Nepal has been launching since 2009 COP15 summit in Copenhagen. Let's accomplish this mission together, and let's do that in a good spirit of togetherness. Thank you.
welcome you all to our ministerial panel discussion. Our topic is climate change and its impact, vulnerability, adaptation options, and climate change related financing for mountain-specific challenges and opportunities.
The upcoming Rio Plus 20 summit this year marks an important milestone to take stock of what we have achieved as a global community in the context of sustainable development and environmental stewardship. Mountain ecosystems are, as we know, very sensitive to climate change, and the rise in temperature is going to be much higher than global average rise in temperature.
While the economic nature fluctuations are important indicator of climate change, according to the research, the emerging picture is that mountain glaciers around the world are undergoing retreat, and that this is almost certainly due to rising global temperatures.
Like others, our mountains have shaped so many aspects of our lives, culture, tradition, and economy. They mean everything to us, yet, like in all walks of our lives, there are challenges. Despite being relatively small, Nepal has a very diverse climate condition, ranging from tropical in the south to alpine in the north. As a Minister for Environment, I see firsthand how people's lives are challenged by climate change impact.
Ийм дэлхийн уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлт энэ бүс нутагт далай тэнгисийн эргээд нам дор газар оршдог улс орнуудаас дутхгүй таагүй сөрөг нөлөөллийг учруулж эхлэв байна. Уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлтийн улмаас өндөр уулын мөнгө цас мөс хайлж бүс нутгийн усны нөөц баримт ихээхэн өөрчлөлт орж өндөр уулын экосистем эрс өөрчлөгдөж байна. Энэ бүхэн бүс нутгийн орнуудын нийгмийн эдийн засгийн хөгжил, хүн ардын аж амьдрал ихээхэн нөлөөлж байгаа нь тодорхойлоод байна.
The importance of mountain ecosystems as repository of goods and services that are key for sustainable development is widely recognized, especially by our countries. Each of one is heavily dependent on such mountains to ensure economic, social, and environmental sustainability.
This is yet another rare opportunity where governments, non-government organizations, politicians, and international key stakeholders meet to deliberate on the progress made in the Sustainable Development Goals in the protection, conservation, and sustainable management of mountain ecosystems.
Climate change has been increasing steadily, with the phenomenon which sounded the alarm thus has become the issue of the climate change tops the agenda of the countries. It has reached the UN Secretary Council, who confirmed as the most important and most dangerous fires from military wars.
I would like at the end to say good thanks for the government of Nepal, or Ministry of Environment Nepal, for very good organizing very good conference. Thank you very much.
And the climate change problem was in my province, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We have 3 mountain range in Pakistan. One is Himalaya, the other is Karakoram, and the third is Hindu Kush. Suleiman.
For the mountainous ecosystem development. Rio Plus 20, the officially one paragraph 94. Sir, action plan on climate change in 2007.
Our mountain, our future, अत्यन्त सुन्दर शीर्षक राखेर जुन चाहिँ वातावरण मन्त्रालय नेपालले जुन यो आयोजना गरेको छ, यसमा संसारका विभिन्न देशका मन्त्रीहरू र वरिष्ठ व्यक्तित्वहरू आउनुभएको छ। यो विषयलाई अझै गम्भीर ढङ्गले र विश्वभरि छरिएका सहकारी क्षेत्रलाई समेटेर लानको निम्ति र सहकारी क्षेत्र आधारभूत तहका जनतासँग गाँसिने र चाहिँ प्रकृतिसँग गाँसिने हुनाले यसलाई अगाडि बढाउनको लागि पनि यो कन्फरेन्सको कन्क्लुजनमा के अगाडि सारिन्छ यसबारेमा मेरो गम्भीर प्रश्न छ र यहाँले उत्तर दिनुहुन्छ भन्ने मैले आशा गरेको छु। धन्यवाद।
नेपाल सरकारले आदिवासी जनजातिको अधिकार सम्बन्धी यो अन्तरिम र समावेशनले 109लाई पारित गरिसकेको छ। त्यो दुवै अभिसन्धिले हामीलाई के कुरा चाहिँ ग्यारेन्टी गर्छ भन्दाखेरि राष्ट्रको कुनै पनि नीति निर्माण गर्ने तहमा आदिवासी जनजातिलाई पूर्व सूचनाको हक र उनको सहमतिको हक प्रदान गरेको छ। यस्तो अवस्थामा जलवायु परिवर्तन बारेमा त्यत्रो ठुलो चाहिँ पोलिसीहरू भन्दाखेरि आदिवासी जनजातिको आदिवासी सङ्गठन नेपाल आदिवासी जनजाति महासङ्घ यसमा किन सहमत गराएन, उनीहरूको सहभागिता किन गराएन, यो तपाईँको नापा र लापा सबै नीतिहरू पारित गर्दाखेरि यो नहुन म तपाईँलाई के अरे हाम्रो माननीय मन्त्रीज्यूबाट यो प्रश्नको म उत्तर सुन्न चाहन्छु।
Yesterday we had an expert consultation here and there was a major discussion on the upland and lowland or upstream or downstream relationship. In India we have been witnessed some kind of payment for ecosystem services which are emanating from the mountain states like Indo-Gangetic Plain in India. They are receiving certain ecosystem services from the Himalayan states. So I was interested to know whether in your countries there has been any appreciation or valuation or payment for the ecosystem services which are emanating from the mountain states to the plain.
I think the second thing is that we need to invest in the mountains in terms of mitigation, in terms of adaptation measures. Because investment in the mountain ecosystems, I think, is investment in the other ecosystems.
And it is made of the confluence of rivers that are born in Bolivia, in Ecuador, in Peru, in Colombia. So that entails a huge responsibility for such countries in order to soundly manage the heads of these rivers, because all the consequences will be felt downstream in Brazil.
मलाई लाग्छ कि त्यो तयार गर्दाखेरि धेरै कन्सल्टेसनहरू भएको थियो। लगभग विभिन्न निकायका 3000 भन्दा बढी व्यक्तिहरूको चाहिँ विभिन्न चरणमा त्यसमा सम्मिलित भएका छन् र त्यसमा सबै क्षेत्रका र लापा तयार गर्दा पनि हामी सबै विकास क्षेत्रहरूमा र काठमाडौँमा पनि धेरै गहन छलफल भएको थियो। त्यसकारण त्यसमा अवश्य पनि आदिवासी जनजातिहरूका पनि विभिन्न भावनाहरू परेको होला। त्यसको क्रियान्वयन गर्दाखेरि हामी सबै निकायसँग आदिवासी जनजाति निकायहरूका पनि सबै संस्थाहरूसँग अवश्य नै छलफल अगाडि राखेर नै हामी त्यसलाई क्रियान्वयन गर्नेछौँ र त्यसमा यहाँहरूको उचित सल्लाह सुझाव प्राप्त भइरहन्छ भन्ने आशा गर्दछौँ र साथै रियो +20 मा जुन जाने एउटा सम्मेलनमा किन सहभागिता गराउने
There was an invitation and actual participation of a wide cross section of people, including indigenous people, maybe not adequate, but there certainly was, and that he said that his ministry is open to hearing views, suggestions, advice from all communities, particularly the indigenous communities, on the issues related to climate change, global warming, the Rio conference. Very quickly. Dear friends, I would like to take a few other questions. I have here a written question from one of the participants here, Mr. S.P. Singh from India.
Are going to divert the major arterial flow of the big rivers. That is the river diversion programs are conducted. Of course, the organ in which land was the artery was flowed, that organ will be destroyed and died.
Nepal, working together with many other mountain countries, is pursuing the mountain issues in a very comprehensive manner. As much as possible are pushing on the agenda of Rio +20.
I have already thought of it, and specifically on this occasion, having such auspicious body here, who are having policy making and decision power in their hand, in their countries, how is gender strategy taken? So I just wanted to ask that and request that you please
who asked or who was talking about the issue, but I will just speak generally. One was talking about the expectation that we all have in this meeting for 2 days.
I believe it's extremely important for those associated with mountain-related developments to focus on the issue of gender. And I'm glad that was brought up. Because let's face it, some of the worst impacts of climate change will have to be dealt with by women. It's also true that if we want to bring about changes both in respect of adaptation and mitigation.
Message coming from our panel discussions. So I want to thank you all for your attention. I want to thank our distinguished panelists for your wonderful presentations.
Working in partnership with DFID is very glad to support
concretely Nepal's efforts to adapt to climate change. In the context of our global fight for climate change, the European Union and the European member states have not only been in the lead to try to reduce global emissions, but also to support developing countries in their adaptation efforts. We have heard today in the discussions in the earlier panel, namely, the issue of how the pledges by developed countries are or not being made accessible for developing countries, are not, or to what extent are they materializing. And I believe this is an example of partnership between, in this case, the UK, the European Union.
Attempts to address all of the issues that have been talked about today. The Nepal Climate Change Support Programme will put resources at the disposal of those most vulnerable to climate change in the mountain areas of Nepal, particularly women and excluded groups. It will give them tools which will enable them to decide what the best adaptation for them is, not from the top down from Kathmandu.
Which also consists of mountain districts. If you are familiar with Nepal and its remotest parts, there are Humla, Mugu, Dolpa and some other districts, Jumla as well, which are the lead mountain districts. So those districts will be implementing the program of adaptation in various sectors and sub-sectors through this initiative called Nepal Climate Change Support Program. So thanks to European Union and DFID UK, and also thanks to UNDP, which will be providing us the technical assistance, technical support, which commits to bringing or channeling down the resources minimum 80%. So this initiative that we are launching today is going to fulfill that commitment. So 80% of available resources on any climate change activities will have to be channeled down to the local level. So that is what we are going to do. So the amount that we have now is around 16.5 million euro. So 80% of, you can calculate, 80% of this whole amount will directly go to these 14 districts of the Midwest and the Far West region.
And finally, I am also trying to see maybe our distinguished panelists and the others who are on the floor would perhaps look at how we can really take all these agenda together and mainstream that in the global development processes. I would like to say that, of course, the climate change negotiation that we are doing through the UNFCCC process and the CBD and the UNCCD are important. But if we are really looking at the livelihood of the people, the poverty level that is, as we heard in the morning, which is one of the highest in the mountain region, if we are really talking about the aspirations of the people living in the mountains, we have to make sure that climate change could only be a strategic entry point, but we have to take it all the way towards the global development processes, whether it is MDG, whether it is the SDG, or the new agenda that we talk about in the Sustainable Development Goal.
In Bangladesh, few districts, there are some hilly areas, not big mountains. In spite of it, you have invited Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is really grateful to you for that invitation, and you have come over here. What is the reason for coming over here? The reason is that in morning session, our one delegate, Mr. Dr. Manu Jamal, he opined here that when the mountain countries are affected, they are in trouble, they are in risky position. In that time, we cannot be separately. Our fate shall be same. They are upper stream, we are the downstream. In respect of water, our rivers are silted up. There is no flow. Rivers carry water from the upper streams. In the middle states, almost all the rivers canals have been sealed up. Waters are not easily going on a very touchy stage. Hence, this conference must achieve some positive result so that sufferer of mountain countries and sufferer from coastal countries, our problems may be different, but problems are coming from same place. Because of the change of climate, our problems have been created. Hence, without fighting together, we have got no other alternative. I ask upon all the distinguished delegates, excellencies, leaders from different countries to come to a consensus so that from our own point of view, we can fight together. We can achieve our goal.